Okay, so we have a pretty short amud today. So the whole agenda of the Gemara, the past couple of amudim, yeah, we're on daf He Amud Aleph, He Amud Aleph, all the way on top, first word on the amud. So the agenda of the Gemara was just to recap a little bit, just to get into the flow. We, on Gimel Amud Bet, we brought a whole breita that taught us that we learn from a special drasha. The word aleha teaches me that there's no yibum by arayot. Right? A person cannot do yibum to his wife's sister. And we learn from there to all other arayot, to his daughter, to his mother-in-law, to his, if his brother was married to his daughter, or his brother was married to his mother-in-law, or his brother married his son-in-law, his daughter-in-law, I'm sorry.
Yibum is his wife's sister, yeah?
Any Yibum is his brother's wife. But if his brother's wife is also his wife's sister, or any other one of the arayot, then he doesn't do Yibum. We learned that from a special drasha. The Gemara asked that why do we need a special drasha? What happened? It must be, because I would have thought without this drasha, you do Yibum. Why would I have thought that? Aseh doche lo taseh. And aseh overrides a lo taseh. To which the Gemara asked, first of all, that's if there's no karet. Over here, arayot is karet. That's different. The Gemara didn't get back to that question yet. And then the Gemara went on a whole tangent to discuss how do I know aseh overrides lo taseh. This principle, aseh doche lo taseh. How do I know it? So the Gemara said basically this whole daf Dalit, Amud Aleph, Amud Bet was all for the purpose of finding out how I know aseh doche lo taseh. And the Gemara said we learn from shatnez. It says lo tilbash shatnez, semer upishtim yachtav, gidilim ta'aselach. Don't wear shatnez, put on tzitzit. From the fact that those two psukim are next to each other, we learn that the chiyuv of tzitzit overrides the isur of shatnez. Okay, that's where we learn aseh doche lo taseh. And the Gemara explained we have a license to make that drasha because the two words tzemer upishtim are extra. Once those two words are extra, we have a license to make this drasha of smuchim and to teach me that the aseh of tzitzit overrides the lo taseh of shatnez, and a person can put shatnez to be yotze tzitzit. So the Gemara said that's all great according to Tana de Rabbi Yishmael. If you look at the paper that we had, do I have it here? With the psukim, yeah. So we said the words tzemer upishtim in blue are extra. Why are they extra? Because I already know that we're talking about wool and linen, because beged, anytime it says beged, that's tzemer, that's wool and linen. So since I have the word beged already by shatnez, I know it's wool and linen. So tzemer upishtim is completely extra. That's only according to Tana de Rabbi Yishmael that I learn beged. Sorry, let me put on this other recording for that's only according to Tana de Rabbi Yishmael that I learn beged is already including tzemer upishtim. Okay, so just to clarify, we found the makor for aseh doche lo taseh according to Tana de Rabbi Yishmael, that he learns beged is already including tzemer upishtim. It already means wool and linen. So the words tzemer upishtim in the pasuk are extra, and therefore I can make a drasha of the tzitzit being doche overriding shatnez. Now, let's top this very top of daf He Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara, Tenach letana de Rabbi Yishmael. That's all great, and we found a good mekor for aseh doche lo taseh according to Tana de Rabbi Yishmael. LeRabbanan minalehu. But according to the Rabbanan that argue on Tana de Rabbi Yishmael, and they say beged does not mean only wool and linen. So the words tzemer and pishtim are not extra. I need them to teach me that we're dealing with wool and linen. So where do they learn aseh doche lo taseh from? Not from this pasuk. So the Gemara says nafka luhu me rosho. They learn from the word rosho. So I should have printed out these psukim also. I forgot, but we have a pasuk that tells us by a mitzorah. Someone who has tzarat, he has to go through a whole process of becoming tahor. Part of the process is he has to shave all of his hair. So the pasuk says he has to shave, he has to remove et kol saro, he has to remove all of his hair. And then it says et rosho, et zekano, et gabot einav. He has to remove the hair on his head and his beard and his eyebrows. Everything has to be removed.
Yeah.
So if it already said he has to remove all of his hair, why does it say he has to remove rosho, the hair on his head? Why does it specify rosho? So Detanya, we have a braita that teaches rosho ma talmud lomar. Why does the pasuk specify rosho, that he has to remove the hair on his head? Lefi shene'emar lo takifu pe'at rashachem. The pasuk says that you're not allowed to cut off one's peot. Lo takifu is the isur of cutting off peot. Means you can't surround your head. You can't cut off these areas on the to make it like rounded, right?
It's a hook.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. Yeah.
Right. I think the Rambam understands it's related to haircuts having to do with avodah zarah. Maybe I don't remember, but
Is that because of a dangerous somebody can like cut a vein or something?
no. Okay, so I would have thought. So again, let's just keep track of the Gemara. So Rosho ma Talmud lomar. Why does the pasuk say by a mitzorah that he has to cut the hair on his head? It mentions Rosho specifically. So lefi shene'emar lo takifu et pe'at roshachem. Shomei ani af mitzorah ken. The Torah says one is not allowed to cut their peot. So I might think a mitzorah as well cannot cut his peot. So Talmud lomar Rosho. The pasuk says no, Rosho, he has to shave his head. Meaning you have an aseh of the mitzorah shaving his head. You have a lo taseh of not cutting one's peot. So we see from here an aseh of, from the word rosho, that teaches me that the aseh of cutting off all the hair overrides the lo taseh of cutting off the peot. And there's a machloket elsewhere. Is the isur, this is just a parenthetical point, is the isur of cutting peot only cutting the peot but leaving the rest of the hair? Or if a person shaves all of his hair, is that included in cutting peot or no? So it's a machloket in the Gemara elsewhere. The Gemara says over here we're going with the understanding that even cutting everything off would be violating the isur of cutting peot. Okay? So what are we saying? We're saying we learned from the word rosho. It says rosho, he has to cut his hair. Well, it already says he has to cut off everything. So no, rosho is teaching me even though he's violating the isur of cutting peot, he still does it because the aseh of cutting hair of the mitzorah overrides lo taseh of not cutting peot.
To cut the peos too, yeah, from Mitzorah.
What?
He has to cut the peos.
Yes, that's the whole we learn from there. Aseh of cutting hair overrides the lo taseh of the peot. Yeah. So the mitzorah has an aseh to cut everything. We learn from the word rosho that even his peot. So we learn from there aseh doche lo taseh. So the Gemara says, good, great, but not so fast. Ika lemifrach ma lelav dehakafa sheken lav she'en shaveh b'kol. The Gemara says you can't prove from there to every lo taseh that an aseh overrides every lo taseh. Why? Because what lo taseh are we dealing with? Cutting off peot. Is cutting off peot applicable to everyone? No. Cutting off peot is not applicable to women. So you can learn from here an aseh overrides a lo taseh when it's a limited lo taseh that's limited to a group of people. But if it's a lo taseh that applies across the board, you can't learn aseh is docha lo taseh from here. Meaning this is a weaker lo taseh. Cutting peot is a lower level lo taseh because it doesn't apply to everybody. It's only for men, not for women. So you can learn an aseh is docha lo taseh, but only the type of lo taseh that's not for everybody. Maybe if it's a lo taseh that applies to men and women, like arayot, then you can't learn an aseh would override.
So woman doesn't have peos, yeah?
There's no isur of peot by woman. Correct. So ikal mifrach malalav shel hakafa sheken lav shemamase ela atya mizkano. So the Gemara says, okay, you're right. You can't learn from Rosho. What can we learn from? Zikano. The pasuk says that a person cannot. The mitzorah has to cut his beard also. Right? It says et rosho, et zikano. Right? It says first it says kol sa'aro, and then it says et rosho, et zikano. So he has to cut his beard also. So Tanya, zikano ma Talmud lomar. If the Torah already said that he has to remove all of his hair, why is the pasuk saying he has to remove his facial hair? Why does it need to say zikano? The pasuk says by kohanim an additional isur of removing of shaving their beards. Right? We have an isur for everybody to shave their beard, but an additional isur for the kohanim to shave their beards with a razor. So shomea ani af kohen mitzorah. So I would think, okay, af kohen mitzorah ken. Also a kohen who is a mitzorah who needs to shave off all of his hair. I might think that he is not allowed to shave his beard because the Torah says that he's not allowed to shave his beard. So Talmud lomar zekano. So the pasuk says by a mitzorah zekano. It says specifically beard to say even if he's a kohen and he has this chiyuv to not shave, or he has an isur to shave his beard, still he shaves it for being a mitzorah. The aseh of shaving hair of a mitzorah overrides the lo ta'aseh, the additional lo ta'aseh of a kohen not shaving his beard.
What's the additional lo ta'aseh of a kohen shaving?
So we have one pasuk by everybody not to shave. Right? It says lo tashchit et pe'at zekanecha, and then we have another additional pasuk by the kohen that teaches that a kohen is not allowed to shave his beard. It is an extra lav of upe'at zekanam lo yigalechu, that the kohanim cannot shave. So even that additional, I might thought, since he has an additional lo ta'aseh, then he would not shave his beard if he's a mitzorah. So says the pasuk zikano, his beard, to teach me even though he's a kohen and he has an additional isur of shaving his beard, but the aseh of a mitzorah shaving his hair overrides the lo ta'aseh.
So two lo ta'aseh.
Yeah, right. Overrides the lavin of a kohen shaving his of the kohen not being allowed to shave his beard. So v'im eno inyan lelav she'eno shaveh bakol, teneu inyan lelav hashaveh bakol. So this is an important concept in Chazal. Sometimes you have two drashot that are seemingly teaching me the same thing. So there's a concept of im eno inyan, teneu inyan. If I don't need the drasha to teach me one thing because I already learned that from a previous drasha, so I'll use the second additional drasha to teach me something else. So let's just explain over here. So we have the pasuk by Mitzorah says that a kohen, it says that someone who has sarat, he has to yigalach et kol sa'aro, he has to shave all of his hair, and then we specify a few body parts: et rosho, et zekano, and gabot einav. But let's focus just on rosho and zekano. So from rosho we learn, even if the guy is going to be shaving, meaning even though he has to shave his peot, the aseh of shaving hair of a mitzorah overrides the lo ta'aseh of shaving peot. Fine, but we said that's a limited lo ta'aseh. That's a lo ta'aseh that applies only to men, not to women. It's a lav she'en shaveh bakol. It's a lo ta'aseh that's not, it doesn't equally apply to everyone. Then we have another pasuk, another word in the pasuk. The next word says et zekano. From there we learn that the isur of a kohen shaving his beard doesn't apply to a mitzorah. The aseh of shaving hair overrides the lo ta'aseh of not shaving beard. So that can't be coming to teach me the exact same thing, that it's an isur that's not applicable to everyone. But it is. You have to be teaching me that even by an isur that is applicable to everyone, because we already have a drasha to teach me that if it's an isur that's not applicable to everyone. We learn from Rosho. So Zekano is coming to teach me additional, even though it's an isur that would be applicable to everyone, still the aseh overrides the lo taseh.
But Zikino doesn't apply to everyone.
It doesn't, but right. That's
So
this concept.
Two negatives make a positive.
Not two negatives make a positive. I already have a drasha that teaches me. From Rosho, we learn already that an aseh is doche a lo taseh that's not an across-the-board lo taseh. That only applies to a select group of people. So Zikano can't teach me the same exact thing. So it must be coming to teach me even more of a chidush. That's im eno inyan, if it's not applicable to what it's actually, the case that it's actually talking about, because I already have a drasha for that. So teneo inyan, we make it, we learn it as to teach me a bigger chidush. Okay, so what we're saying now, what we're suggesting now is from Rosho we learn that an aseh overrides a lo taseh that's not shaveh b'kol. It's not equally applicable to everyone. And from Zikano we're learning additionally, even if it were to be a lo taseh that would be applicable to everyone, an aseh would override it. So the Gemara says no, still no good. Va'akati itzterich. I still need Zikano to teach me specifically about this lav, not about an aseh overriding a lo taseh that's equivalent to everyone. I salkadatach amina shani kohanim hoel v'riba bahen hakatuv mitzvot yeterot. I would have thought to say that kohanim are different because the Torah gave additional mitzvot by kohanim. And therefore, afilu lav shein shaveh bekol lo dachi. I might think that even an isur that's only applicable to a certain group of people would not be overridden by an aseh for a kohen. Meaning, you have places where things are a bit more strict by a kohen. So I would have thought that over here also, shaving by a kohen is more strict, and an aseh would not override it, even though it's not an aseh that's applicable to everyone. But I would think it's more strict because we find things by kohanim are more strict. Therefore, it needs to teach me that no, even by a kohen, the aseh of shaving overrides the lo ta'aseh of not shaving one's beard. So the hava amina was that this is available, the zekano is available to teach me an additional drasha, that even by a lav, an isur that's shaveh b'kol, that applies equally to everyone, still the aseh would override it. But we're saying, no, you can't learn that from here. Because I would have thought that specifically by kohanim, it would not override, because we find that kohanim are more strict when it comes to certain things. So too over here, they're more strict and it would not override. So we need this drasha of Zikano to teach me that even by a kohen, it overrides, the aseh overrides the lo ta'aseh.
If the Kohen shave his beard, he cannot do that with that?
That's a different question, unrelated. Let's focus on the Gemara. So kamash malan. Therefore, this comes to teach me that even by a kohen who's seemingly more strict, still the aseh overrides the lo ta'aseh that's not shaveh b'kol. So we still don't have kamash malan dedachi that it overrides, the aseh overrides. So we still don't have a makor that aseh is doche a lo ta'aseh, and aseh overrides a lo ta'aseh that's shaveh b'kol, that's equally applicable to everyone, to men and women. So the Gemara says, okay, you're right. So let's shift gears. Let's go to a different pasuk. Ela atia mirosho dehach. We learn from a different rosho. Now this pasuk is talking dehach tana, of the following tana. Now this pasuk is talking about a nazir, no longer a mitzorah, but a nazir. Right, a mitzorah was somebody who had sarat, and he had a chiyuv, part of his process of becoming tahor, to shave off all of his hair. Now we're talking about a nazir, who at the end of his term of nizirut has to shave off his hair. Titania, Rosho. By a nazir also, it says Rosho. I'm sorry, the pasuk says, by a nazir, it says, Oh, sorry. Rosho by Mitzora. He has a chiyuv to shave off all of his hair. The Tanya Rosho. Ma Talmud Lomar. Why does it say Rosho? Lefisha ne'emar tar lo yavor al Rosho. The pasuk says that a blade should not go over the head of a nazir. So we're talking about someone who's a nazir and a Mitzora. So this guy's a nazir and he got sarat. So the Torah says Rosho. He has to shave his head. But on the other hand, the Torah says he's a Nazir. Ta'ar lo yavor al rosho. He's not allowed to shave his head. So he has an aseh to shave his head. And he has a lo ta'aseh, because he's a Nazir, not to shave his head. So what's he supposed to do? So shome'ani af mitzora v'nazir. I would have thought that, if he's a Nazir who's a mitzora, well, he can't shave his head. So Talmud lomar rosho. Therefore it says rosho to teach me that no, even if the guy's a Nazir, he has an obligation to shave his head. And the aseh of a Mitzorah shaving his head overrides the lo ta'aseh of a Nazir not cutting his hair.
So is this the same Rosho we previously had?
It's the same Rosho, yeah. It's the same Rosho by a Mitzorah, but what we're learning is different. Before we said, it's coming to teach me even though he has to cut his peot. But we said, no, peot is not, that's only applicable to men. We can't learn every lo ta'aseh from there. But Nazir...
How do we learn that point? That the Mitzorah can cut off his payas? Because don't we still need Rosho to teach us that the Mitzorah can cut off his payas?
So not according to this Tana.
So we're switching... So this Tana we have a kasha on, where does he learn...
You're saying, how does this Tana learn that a person's allowed to cut off his peot?
Right.
Could be he learns from Zikano that it overrides the lav shein shaveh b'kol. Okay, but Talmud lomar. Let's get to the bottom of the Amud and then we'll have some time to explain. So Talmud lomar rosho. So the pasuk says rosho to teach me even if the guy is a Nazir and he became a Mitzorah, he has a chiyuv to shave his head. So ikal mifrach mal nazir mitzora sheken yeshno b'sheila. So the Gemara says no. The iser of mitzora of nazir, is a little bit different. It's also a weaker lav. It's a weaker lo ta'aseh because yeshno b'sheila, because he can be shoel. He can rescind his nizirut. It's like a neder. So he can get the neder nullified. So that in essence makes it a weaker lav. It's a weaker lo ta'aseh. Since it's a weaker lo ta'aseh, maybe that's why an aseh overrides it. But you can't learn from here that an aseh would override a full-fledged, long-lasting lo ta'aseh that can't be nullified. So the Gemara says, Dilo tema achi, you have to say this, that it's specifically because it's a weaker lo ta'aseh. Because if you don't say this, hadekai malan deina aseh doche lo ta'aseh v'aseh ligmor min nazir. We have a rule. Aseh is doche. Aseh overrides a lo ta'aseh, but aseh does not override something which is a lo ta'aseh and aseh. So the Gemara says we should learn from here that it does. You have an aseh to shave all of one's hair for being a mitzorah. By a nazir, there's an aseh and a lo ta'aseh. An aseh gadel per asar rosho, he has to let his hair grow, and a lo ta'aseh of tar lo ya'avor al bisaro, that he's not allowed to cut his hair. So there's an aseh to leave his hair and a lo ta'aseh not to cut his hair. And yet we say that the nazir has to shave his hair. So why don't we say an aseh of mitzorah overrides a lo ta'aseh and aseh? So it must be because this type of lo ta'aseh is not a strong lo ta'aseh, because it's something that a person could get out of. A person could be matir the neder nazir. So elam min nazir my ta'am lo gamrinan. How come we don't learn from nazir? Ika lemifrach sheken yeshno b'sheila. The reason is because we can say the nazir is a lo ta'aseh that yeshno b'sheila, that it is something that could be annulled. So achanami ika lemifrach sheken yeshno b'sheila. So also over here, by just regular aseh doche lo ta'aseh, we could say that a nazir yeshno b'sheila, it's something that could be annulled. So let's stop here. Let's just recap. This was a lot of cheshbon in this Gemara, a lot of maybe some unfamiliar concepts. Basic breakdown. We found by Tana Baby Shmuel they had a great makor from Tzemer Pishtim. It's extra, and we learned tzitzit is doche shatnez. So we learned aseh of tzitzit overrides lo taseh shatnez. Great. What about the chachamim? They don't hold Tzemer Pishtim is extra because they learn beged does not include Tzemer Pishtim, so they need Tzemer Pishtim, wool and linen, to specifically be stated. So the Gemara said, what about Rabbanan? So this whole Amud is discussing, and we have not yet we don't have a makor according to Rabbanan yet. But we said, okay, maybe their source for Aseh Docha Lo Ta'aseh is the Aseh of cutting one's hair overrides Lo Ta'aseh of Peot. The Gemara said, no, that's not a Lo Ta'aseh, it's applicable to everyone. The Gemara says, okay, the Aseh of a Metzorah cutting off his beard overrides the Lo Ta'aseh of a Kohen shaving his beard. And that, if that's not coming to teach me by an aseh that is not equivalent to everyone, because I already have a makor for that, it's coming to teach me even an aseh that's applicable to everyone. The Gemara says, no, Kohanim are different. I would have thought we're more strict by Kohanim, and therefore I need a special limit by Kohanim to say even a Kohen is allowed to shave his hair. So the Gemara says, okay, let's talk about a Mitzorah who is a Nazir. He has an aseh of cutting his hair, and a lo ta'aseh of not cutting his hair because he's a Nazir. So aseh of cutting his hair overrides lo ta'aseh of not cutting his hair. To which the Gemara says, no, Nazir is different because it's a weaker lo ta'aseh because it's something that he could be matir the neder. He can get out of the neder Nazir. It's not an everlasting lo ta'aseh that is upon him from the Torah. It's something that he put upon himself and he can get out of. So therefore you have no proof that an aseh is doche a lo ta'aseh, a full-fledged, complete lo ta'aseh, according to Chachamim, as of now. So the next Amud, we're going to get more into it.
Does Nazir apply to everyone?
Yeah, women could also be Nazir.
And they have to also shave off their hair? Or is that